We're live.
Okay, welcome to another Thursday night of the Guitar Gear Locker. My name is Alex Books, and this is my co-host, Mr. Roger Sutherland. And this is live show number 32.
Yep. And we have some pretty interesting stuff. I know it's going to seem like a couple weeks ago when we were talking about our favorite guitarists, but we kind of didn't dig that deeply into it. And
yeah, I think it was more of like underrated guitar players we were talking about a bit.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. It was underrated a couple weeks ago. So and we're going to get to that, but I mentioned it to you today, and I thought about this. I don't know what made me think about this. It was in the news not long ago, but our area. So this is going to tie into distortion and how distortion came, like the history of distortion and guitars, maybe. And this guy was part of it. So there was a guy named Link Wray, which probably everybody's familiar with because what is that? Bring the Noise, something with the Noise with Jimmy Page and Jack White and the Edge. They talked about this song in Link Wray. It's called Rumble. So, and it's kind of interesting where we live. So we're not far from DC. We're just south of DC, right in the Quantico area. Well, there's a couple little interesting pieces of history about the place. One is George Washington allegedly chopped down a cherry tree here, not far from where we live in the same county. But the song Rumble was kind of made here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. We don't live in Fredericksburg, but right outside of it, as you know, because you live there. But Rumble. So, to go into a little bit about Rumble, we probably heard it on several movies like Pulp Fiction. It was in there. It's been on commercials. So as the story goes, and you can Google this and find this very easily, and they talked about it on that documentary with Jimmy Page, and a lot of famous people have talked about it. Hey, Dwight's with us tonight. Hey, Dwight. Hey, I checked out your stuff, man. Cool stuff. So Rumble, the story of Rumble is in 1958. Dwight says, hi, Alex.
Hi.
So in 1958, Link Wray played in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And during this time, the song The Stroll, The Stroll, was big. So all the kids at this sock hop, if you will, I think it was called. So all the kids at the sock hop kept asking Link Wray and his band to play The Stroll, and they didn't really know it. So he just started playing some chords in the song that would become Rumble. So he played it for the first time in Fredericksburg. Now, how that ties into distortion, and of course, this is just reading up about it. And I think I read about this first when if I'm not mistaken, he passed away last year or the year before, and it was in the news in DC, and I saw it on there first. So how distortion comes into play here is some of the kids that were at the sock hop held some sort of mic up to his speaker, amp, whatever he was playing through, and it had some sort of distorted type effect that he liked, and he wanted to figure out, like, how the heck do I get that sound? Like, how did they do it? What were we doing? So he started poking holes in the speaker of his amp, speaker, or what have you, to sort of get a distortion effect. So, and when you look it up, like, there's one person that tried it before him in 1958. Link Wray tried to develop this distorted guitar sound. And then, later on, it was, I think in the 60s, it was perfected and they came out with the first pedal. But kind of an interesting story, and it happened right here. Not much has happened in Fredericksburg, other than, Civil War battles and things like that. And, George Washington, a lot of history with George Washington here. But yeah, just thought it was kind of a cool story and kind of tie it into distortion and, it was interesting how, like, even in 1958, there was a dude with a guitar trying to figure out how to make it sound different and better and work on tone or a different sound,
Yeah.
So
And
I
it's
just
really
thought I'd
cool
bring it up
music
tonight.
piece.
What's that?
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
And it's a really cool musical piece, and the tones of the guitar,
Right.
and and I've been hearing that song forever.
Oh, yeah.
It's just one of those classic moments in music, and I think I just never knew what the name of it was until
Yeah.
many years later. But which
Yeah.
is fascinating is that it's born here. So
Yeah, yeah. And it was him just kinda improvising because he didn't know how to play the stroll.
yeah,
So, and he just started playing some chords, and it's pretty easy to play, but it also sounds cool, like, so my
yeah,
favorite, like, on movies, my favorite movie's Pulp Fiction. I'll be honest, it took me 2 times of watching it before I understood what happened,
hmm
uh, but just when Rumble comes on in that movie, it's always like, whenever you hear it's just kind of interesting where they insert that song. So,
yeah,
yeah, kind of a weird little fact and, kinda goes back to guys just chasing tones even way, way back then. The
sure,
other one before we get to our, much anticipated, guitarist discussion is, and it's hard as a Marylander to talk about this family, but, the Irsay family, Jimmy Irsay passed away yesterday, 65, so our condolences out to the family. Why I say what I did about a Marylander is, the Irsay family took the Colts out of Baltimore, during in the middle of the night, so I don't think a lot of people in Baltimore have ever forgiven them. But I found it interesting. I ran across this today. It popped up in my feed. Jim Irsay, the gentleman who passed away yesterday, has the biggest guitar collection, I believe, in the world. And somebody in Dubai tried to buy it for 1 billion with a B dollars. And he
great,
wouldn't sell it because he wanted it to stay here. And there are, I'm gonna look over here. So, I mean, he has, it's 200 guitars. I'm gonna read real quick if you'll bear with me. From the actual musicians, Jimi Hendrix, Pete Townsend, Prince, Lou Reed, Eddie Van Halen, Johnny Cash, Les Paul, The Edge, ton of guitars. And we talked last week, I think it was, about the most expensive guitar was the Kurt Cobain guitar, the acoustic from Unplugged.
hmm
Uh, well, number two and number three number three was also Kurt Cobain's. Number two, I think, is Eric Clapton's. So this guy owned number two and three. So,
amazing,
gigantic guitar collection. I had no, but I think it wasn't just a guitar thing, I think he was a collector of all things collectible kinda thing. But I thought that was interesting, I never knew that. So,
yeah,
I
yeah,
just knew as a, again, as a Marylander, I was not supposed to like anybody with the last name Irsay, but he's a cool
yeah,
dude, he's a guitar guy, or he was
yeah.
a guitar guy, and unfortunately, died pretty young.
And I never knew that about this guy with the guitar. I always, when I think of guitar collection, I think of people like Rick Nielsen or Joe
Right,
Bonamassa, guys like that,
right.
that are known for their huge, vintage guitar collection. But
Uh-huh.
I never knew that. That's pretty crazy.
Right, and I'm speaking, I think he has one of Neil Sean's, I think he had one of Rick Nielsen's. So,
Oh,
yeah, a lot of guitars, isn't that crazy?
yeah, that's
So,
insane.
I had no clue. When I saw that pop up in my feed, I was like, "There's no way." Then I went and read the article about it, and it was like, "Wow, pretty interesting." A lot of guitars. Billion, $1 billion worth of
Yeah,
guitars. That's
it's insane.
money we won't see in 50 lifetimes.
Yeah.
Go on to, you wanna kick it off? So, well, wait a minute. I need to throw up a disclaimer because you are like you're a music guy. You're like a music encyclopedia. So when you talk about this, you're a performing guitarist, accomplished performing in a rock band. I'm just a guy. So I'm putting my disclaimers. I'm just a guy. So yours is going to be an analysis of guitarists, and mine is just going to be like people that I think play guitar well.
You know,
Every guy's world.
well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's whatever guitar player that makes an impact.
Yeah.
Music. You don't have to be a musician or just or just a weekend warrior guy. It doesn't matter. But
Well, I said disclaimer, but we can call it an excuse because I didn't want somebody to watch this in a comment to go like, "What the hell's this guy?"
I mean, the list of guys that I have now, we could be here all night, but I have at least close to 50 guys on my list that have made like a big impact, and I'll just try to just shoot through them real quick.
Yeah, and if I have a double, I won't say mine. I'll just say, yeah, I have that too.
Yeah, and my lists are all. I mean, for the most part, I think most people watching this show would probably know who most of these guys are anyway. So these are all classic players. But,
okay.
Or if you want to go first, you can go. And
no, you can go.
Yeah.
You can
so, well, most people who know me, I don't really. I have my number one guy, but everybody else, it could go back and forth. I mean, it's not really in any order or anything like that. And it's really impossible for me to do something like that, aside from my number one guy. And my number one guy, most people who know me or who've seen the show, is Eddie Van Halen, obviously. Eddie Van Halen to me, I'll just keep it brief because, things about Eddie's been told a million times. And I obviously Eddie's his technique, his tone, his songwriting, he was the ultimate package, I think,
okay.
Pretty much perfection to me. And obviously he's the guitarist that made the biggest impact on me.
Right.
But then, there's some of these other guys.
Well, wait a minute. Can I had him at number one. I had him at number one on my list. And again, I just have a list. And I told you the other day, if you asked me who my favorite was, it would probably be a horizontal line because I have probably 10 that are my most favorite, but he was at the top of my list.
Oh, okay.
Not to interrupt you. Sorry.
I know sometimes you can flip flop and like, okay, I think it's him. Maybe it's this guy. Maybe it's him, and it's like that with me with a lot of stuff too, whether it's my favorite band or whatnot. But it's like Black Sabbath and Pink Floyd can kind of neck and neck for me is my all-time favorite. But speaking of Pink Floyd, David Gilmore, man, I can't say enough of the impact that he's had on my life since I was a kid. Listening to those guitar solos, the textures, the layers, the slide playing, the atmosphere, and there's a thing, less is more.
Right.
You heard that, Yngve? Less is more. And Yngve is one of mine too, as well. So we'll just get that out of the way. But yeah, I mean, David Gilmore, come on, who plays more feeling than David Gilmore? I mean, with one note, the guy can make you cry, or the hairs will stand up on your arms just listening to that. Even like his chords, like if you think of like the intro, the few notes of "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," just hearing that's just so creepy, and
right.
But yeah, Gilmore, obviously Tony Iommi. I mean, the riff master. I mean, hearing. I'm pretty sure that the first thing I ever heard of Black Sabbath was Iron Man, and just hearing that kick drum, Bill Ward's kick drum, and then Tony bending those notes. And, it just, man, as a kid, it scared the living shit out of me, but it was also like, this is what I've been looking for.
Right.
So Iommi, um, related to Iommi somewhat because of the Ozzy connection, Randy Rhodes. I mean, Blizzard of Eyes and Dire of
Yeah.
Man were just huge for me as a kid growing up. I still remember the day that Randy died as a kid in school.
Right.
And all my friends just like, oh, Randy Rhodes died. And, I remember after school, we were listening to Diary of a Madman on the boombox,
Yeah.
back then. And I'm going to try to just, brush through. Now, going
Wait a
back.
minute. Let me throw a couple comments so they don't get out of context. Trouble. Cody said, excuse me, I'd say Jason Hook and Eddie Van Halen have some of the best stories that have impacted a lot of people and me.
Mm-hmm.
True?
Yeah.
Then
Jason,
what?
who is Jason Hook, by the way?
He's going to tell us.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to assume that's probably somebody newer.
Angus, Stevie Ray, Randy Rhodes. Yep. Can't go.
Yeah.
Angus too. And
I didn't have so I had Gilmore. I definitely have Stevie Ray Vaughn, you know that. He would be on my horizontal line. Angus, you know what? I appreciate that, but I guess I was just looking at different people. I thought he would be the obvious. Like, it wouldn't take anything away from Angus Young. It was just like, okay, that's an obvious choice / obvious choice. I was trying to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. So,
I don't want to interrupt you with these, but I also don't want to get too far behind. Then they don't make sense. Oh, wait a minute. We're getting.
He was a guitarist for Bullet Boys. Oh, okay.
I didn't. Oh, and Five Finger Death. Okay, so that I was going to say you weren't even alive when the Bullet Boys.
Yeah. Huh, okay.
Flatback. Oh, I'm gonna have to check them out.
Well, I mean, Alice Cooper, Michael Bruce, and Glenn Buxton, two of my favorites as well. The original Alice Cooper band.
Uh-huh.
So, a lot of people probably don't know, especially people that are younger, that Alice Cooper was a band. It wasn't Alice Cooper the solo artist, but Alice Cooper band. From the late '60s and '70s. And speaking of that, kind of brings back a memory. My uncle was a huge Alice Cooper fan, and he used to chase me around his house with a photo of Alice Cooper. That used to scare the living shit out of me in the early '70s.
Isn't it odd that I have a story about Alice Cooper that scared the shit out of me too. Like and all I remember is the song "The Black Widow" was involved.
Yeah.
There's always something with Alice Cooper when you were a kid that scared the shit out of you.
Yeah, I mean, Alice Cooper. I mean, come on, who looked like that back then? I mean, it was It was pretty frightening.
I think for me, it wasn't even Alice Cooper himself. It was Vincent Price and his voice in the background.
Oh yeah.
It was spooky.
Yeah.
No, and I was a kid when this happened. Some friends.
Yeah, and then
right?
In the early '80s, Vincent Price is the spoken word for Iron Maiden, "Number of the Beast." That's him.
Right. Yeah, and then all these years later, Alice Cooper is out playing golf.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it?
Yeah. I've actually heard that he is just such a nice guy.
I've heard that also.
Tons of people and I met his guitar player that plays in his band now. What's her name? Nina Strauss.
Oh yeah,
super sweet girl, really nice. Met her backstage. She came out to the show we were playing years ago, and I talked to her quite a bit. She came up to me, introduced herself, and was like, "Oh, I really love the show," and bullshitted with her for a little while. She was super nice, great guitar player too.
Cool. Yeah, she seems like a nice person.
Yeah. But so I'm going to go back in time, I guess, for the guitar players that made the first impact on me as a kid, and this is and I'm going to group them in four. There's four guys.
Okay.
my father, he's the one who got me into rock and roll. So, he was a 60s guy, really, all the stuff from the 60s. And so my dad was still is a huge Yardbirds fan. So Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page, obviously here and all. And I left out Eric Clapton. I'm a huge Cream guy, but for whatever reason, like Clapton just never. I love Cream, but it just never. I don't know. After Cream, it's just like nothing else really stuck out to me.
Yeah, that's odd.
And the other guys are Pete Townsend and Jimi Hendrix, obviously, and all those guys is from my dad. And I think really too hearing the raunchiness of Hendrix and Pete Townsend, because Pete Townsend was like really like nasty and dirty, and Hendrix was very distorted and otherworldly sounding. And back then, obviously, I was a little kid, but just I was attracted to that sound.
Right.
So those were the guys. And then another guy I have to mention that is from my father was Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues. And I think he, nobody really talks about his guitar playing, but what a fantastic solo player he was. He had, besides he great acoustic player, but a great electric player, and he's known for just he played like the ES 335, I think. His main guitar was, and just a lot of really great guitar tones that he got, on those 60s records and the 70s stuff,
Right.
But yeah, definitely those guys. I guess the first guys that really kind of stuck out to me as a kid. And then fast forward to the 70s, obviously Ritchie Blackmore, I mentioned Page already with Zeppelin.
Right.
And George Harrison, another guy that definitely had a big impact on me, because he's another guy that you don't really talk about too much as like a guitar hero, but he got some really like, especially like strange guitar tones and also like the psychedelic stuff that he did,
Right.
a lot of really interesting stuff. And moving right along, I think I mentioned Randy Rhodes. Then there's, Angus Young, which Dwight brought up. Angus Young and Malcom, both of them had such a huge impact on me.
Well, I think one of the things that stands out with Angus Young is, most of their songs, they took 3 or 4 chords and rearranged them and rearranged them and rearranged them to where they always sound different and interesting and catchy.
Yeah. And, they can get away with it. It's just like all those records. I mean, the 70s stuff, the Bon Scott era is my favorite, but I do the Brian Johnson era too. So in particularly Flick of the Switch, which nobody talks about. Everybody talks about Back in Black and For Those About to Rock. Flick of the Switch was like, man, wow, man, some of the best riffs are on that record.
Right.
And so those guys, and then obviously Michael Schenker from UFO.
Oh yeah, I missed him.
And another guy was Fast Eddie Clarke of Motorhead, and he went on to do Fastway. So Fast Eddie Clarke, another big guy for me. Let me see if I can still stick to early on. Uli Roth from the Scorpions. Big guy for me. And I mentioned Ritchie Blackmore, I think. And another guy I think you like as well, Roger, is Steve Howe from Yes. I mean,
definitely on my list.
Yeah, I mean, like crazy. Like I always would say, like that guy pisses me off because he was just or he still is so damn good. If you listen to those early Yes records, and in particularly, a record that nobody talks about that much is Relayer. And Relayer is like, I think is probably their most insane record,
Right.
Like the playing that Steve does on that record is just ridiculous. That's actually the first studio album with Alan White on drums. And
Right. Right.
Alan White's debut was Yes Songs, the live album,
Uh-huh.
Bill Bruford. But yeah, Steve Howe, I mean,
Yeah.
come on,
Yeah. I like when, and I talked about him a couple of weeks ago. I like him a lot as a guitar player, and the things that he did, super hard, super
yeah,
intricate.
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
yeah,
when you listen to it, it's like, and then you try to play it, it's like, holy crap.
yeah, yeah. I don't, you know what? Maybe one day I will attempt to learn some Steve Howe stuff. That should be interesting. Maybe
Yeah.
not as not as hard
Do
as,
do
but
Owner of a Lonely Heart. That's pretty easy.
that's not even him. That's Trevor Rabin.
Oh,
So
that's right, that's right. Well,
yeah,
I'm just thinking of Yes. That's when Yes, turned into No for me. They kinda lost me. I
yeah,
like early
yeah.
Steve Allen,
I
early
mean,
Yes.
that stuff, the Trevor Ray, it's like that's when they got all kind of trying to sell some records, I guess, and trying to be a
Yeah.
bit commercial. But
Well, we
Trevor
talked
Ray,
about
great
the
guitar
same.
player, but
They fell into the same thing, I think, that them and Genesis, Jefferson
yeah,
Airplane, they all fell into that same trap.
yeah, totally. They were probably like, well, we gotta, you got these guys behind the scenes at the record label, like, well, we got to keep your career alive, and you guys need to
Right,
start making some hits, like
right.
Aerosmith. It's just like,
Yeah,
oh, let's
yeah,
get outside writers to come in and write the songs for you.
right.
But yeah, and oh, I got to mention Ace Frehley, because Ace Frehley was huge for me as a kid, and particularly the first Ace Frehley solo record, which I would consider to be the best out of those four records that those guys did.
Uh-huh.
The eight, I believe it came out. Yeah. So I guess I'll move on a bit to the 80s. And well, actually, it's still 70s here, but KK Downing and Glenn Tipton of Judas Priest, which I talked about
Right,
as being underrated. And then in that same ballpark, well, Dave Murray and Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden, uh,
right.
two huge players for me. Jake E. Lee, that
Mhm.
uh, with Ozzy, not just the Ozzy stuff, but I really love the Badlands stuff too. And there's a record that I think it's like a pre-production, and it came out years later. I'm actually curious. I want to take a look at what it's called, but and maybe it's that somebody that's a Jake E. Lee fan may not be aware of this record. It's called Dusk, and I believe it was supposed to be the third Badlands record, but it's just a pre-production. It came out maybe 10 years after they recorded it. Man, the guitar playing on that is just ridiculous, and it's not the Jake of the 80s. It's more kind of Zeppelin-ish, kind of bluesy rock,
Right.
playing really dry guitar tones on it. And man, that record is just so damn good. And the late great Ray Gillen on vocals, just man, fucking killer stuff. And
Yeah.
Jake, Jake is just, I think he's just one of the greatest hard rock guitar players like ever.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
and huge guy for me. And then James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett, from of Metallica. Hetfield's rhythm playing is,
Right.
him and Malcolm Young are probably my top rhythm guitar players. And I think I would consider the two of them probably the two greatest rhythm guitar players ever. And
Really?
I would put both of them right there, Malcolm Young and James Hetfield.
Huh.
Like Hetfield's right hand, you cannot match that guy. His down picking and all, like
Oh,
if you
yeah.
look at those early records, especially like Master Puppets, the down picking on that record, it's just
Mhm.
like it's not human.
Right. Oh, yeah,
And
yeah, definitely.
and the funny thing about that, I didn't know for years and years later is how James holds a pick. So he holds it with three fingers and he's doing this.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this, and he's got three fingers, and
Yeah.
hold it pretty nuts.
Yeah.
And and then in that same, the thrash metal era, obviously Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King of Slayer. huge guy. Mainly Jeff Hanneman. We consider him the better songwriter out of the two, and his solos too. He was the better solo player. Not to knock Carey at all, but Jeff was the man. And Piggy of Voivod, same genre. Those guys probably made the biggest impact on that kind of music, more extreme metal. And then the other guys were Michael Denner and Hank Sherman, A Merciful Fate, huge for me. Let me see, and still somewhat related into the extreme metal genre, but not as extreme as say Slayer or something, but was one of those guys we had on our show actually last year is David Austin and Ben Meyer, Nasty Savage.
Oh yeah.
Two of my favorite guitar players. And these guys right here, Gary Rossington, Alan Collins, Ed King, right up there. Billy Duffy of the Cult, one of my favorite guitar players. Now obviously Billy's early stuff, which was more like the post-punk kind of psychedelic stuff that he did on the particularly the first two records, Dreamtime and Love. And then after that, you move on to electric and stuff where it got like this kind of bluesy, Zeppelin-ish, AC/DC kind of vibe, and he's kind of, which is interesting about Billy Duffy. It's just like, he kind of can do everything. It's like, he can go from this like super kind of blues rock, kind of vibe to post-punk psychedelic kind of, new wave, So let me see. I'm trying to think of anybody else I missed.
Is he hiding behind your screen?
What's that?
I said, is he hiding behind your screen?
I'm just looking at my list over here. But I mean, there's a lot of guys like you mentioned, and Roger's favorite guitar player, Yngve Malmsteen, obviously.
Oh yes, number 198.
Yeah. But I mean, those are probably my top guys right there. Oh, I got to mention Gary Holt too of Exodus too. The big guy for me. And,
so let me ask you this, and before I get to my list, I don't know if my list is as in depth as yours. I just tried to be a little bit different, like usual, because I'm different. So I noticed I don't have him on my list. You don't have him on your list, but I'm curious to see what you think, and maybe people in the comments. Slash, what are your thoughts?
Fucking phenomenal guitar player. Come on.
Yeah, but he wasn't on your list and he's not on mine.
I mean, I'm not I wasn't I'm not a Guns N' Roses guy or anything. I'm more of a fan of him. Band.
Okay.
I think Guns N' Roses, great songs, obviously. It just never was like, and it's funny because before they hit it big, I grew up in the 80s. I was a part of the underground, the thrash and punk and hardcore guys, and that was like, that kind of music was like
that would have been like glam.
It was, we were like, it was all about, to quote Paul Bell off of Exodus, kill posers, that was, and so a bunch of my friends that were hardcore guys, I remember I was over, this guy's name was Mike, and he was all in the hardcore, and from like hardcore stuff to like Hellhammer and Celtic Frost, and so him and a couple other guys, they were like, and they were playing the Guns N' Roses record, Appetite for Destruction. This is before they broke, and they were just so into it because they were like, it's kind of like old Aerosmith, and they were like really into it. And I was really kind of like, as a kid, I was kind of blown away that they were all about this band, because I never even heard about them. And then obviously maybe it was probably maybe a few months after that they started to kind of break, as a band. But Slash, I mean, come on, man, what a monster guitar player. And, I saw him some years back with I played a festival with his solo. It's Slash and Miles Kennedy or something. I guess that's Slash. And yeah, man, I watched the set. He was
Necrosion's in the house. What's going on?
Necrosion. And where you been?
You're late.
You're late.
He used to be in like 3 hours early with a comment. Never again. That's because I didn't set it up. I was working on your guitar a lot, so I didn't set it up till way late. Yeah, so I want to remember. So I have after I go over my list, there's a question I want to ask everybody because I thought about it when and I'll say his name. He's not at the top of my list, but just to make me remember this, and it'll help you jog my memory. Willie Nelson. So
yeah, I'm great acoustic player. I never really kind of. Yeah, he's a great player. Sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
no,
but so I only mentioned that, and I mentioned it that early because if you remind me Willie Nelson when I get done with my list, it will remind me what I want to ask everybody. Because when I thought of him, I'll just say it now, and then we'll come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about Willie Nelson, and I was obviously, kind of looking at a list over or on the internet and just looking at people that I thought were interesting and different, and that I guess what I was thinking of is after we get done with this, let's think of guitar players. If your eyes were closed and you heard the guitar, you would know it was them. Willie Nelson is that guy.
Yeah, that is like just what you just said right there. That is more important than how many notes you can compile, how fast you are, all and that's tone, that's identity. So it's like if Ritchie Blackmore's, if I hear somebody playing guitar around the corner, Ritchie Blackmore, I'm going to know it's Ritchie Blackmore. I'm going to know if it's Tony Iommi. I'm going to know if it's, Eddie Van Halen.
Right, so, well, wait, because Necrosion is doing it. Let's wait until after I go over my list, and then let's do this one. Let's do another list of who we all think we would know if our eyes were closed. So, and we heard that. But I just wanted to say Willie Nelson because I knew that I'd forget. I was trying to sit here and remember what was I trying to remember? I'm getting old. So, of course, I had Eddie Van Halen first. Leslie West.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I surprised you with that one, didn't I?
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
Leslie West.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Jimi Hendrix is, that's a no-brainer, right? Jimi Hendrix. He would probably be my number one if I had to choose a number one with Eddie Van Halen, Stevie Ray Vaughn being right there.
Stevie Ray Vaughn, yep.
Stevie Ray Vaughn. And I'm a big fan of Stevie Ray Vaughn. I like his style. I like how he plays. I like the music, and I know a lot of people thinks that maybe he did. He ripped off old blues players. Maybe he did, but everybody rips off somebody. Like nobody invented all this stuff. David Gilmore, of course. That's an example, like playing with feeling and texture, and not necessarily speed, but finesse and creativity is kind of what made me put him on my list. And there were there's other ones I looked at. I was like, yeah, it's just too cliche. Everybody would pick him. I mentioned him a couple of weeks ago. Roy Clark. Roy Clark was a phenomenal guitar player. And then, not to mention that I know nowadays it's a little hokey in the 70s and 80s, like Hee Haw era and sitcoms and all that kind of stuff to have somebody shredding on an acoustic guitar and then saying jokes or doing kooky little things. It was kooky, but it still takes a ton of talent. It's interesting you mentioned your dad because there were guys that I definitely was channeling my dad on. Like my dad would always say, and my dad wasn't a guitar player, he wasn't a musician, but if we talked about guitar or anything, he would say the best guitar player is Chet, and my dad didn't sound like that, by the way. Chet Atkins was it, like he thought Chet Atkins was the absolute best guitar player, and again, he wasn't a musician. We talked about this guy, and you need to look these two up. Brad Paisley and Keith Urban. Man, those guys are so good.
Yeah, I know who they are, but I still have yet to really dig in, and I have to do that.
Yeah, they're just so good. Just
Mm.
good, like, not only country, they're playing, Crocio's going down the list, I'm catching his list. They're just good at everything. It's not only country. I've heard, Keith Urban play Van Halen stuff, and he
Mhm.
sounds good playing that. Um, you probably don't know this one, Gary Clark Jr.? Maybe you do?
Who is
He's
it?
newer. Gary Clark Jr., he's
Oh,
newer.
yeah. I'm unfamiliar.
I would have him in there. The and I so, let me put my other disclaimer. I don't listen to country music. I have before. My dad used to listen to it, but I know about these people, obviously. Vince Gill. I mean, he's out with the Eagles now, or here and there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
he's fitting in with them. So yeah, he's just a really good. I heard, man, I was listening to Howard Stern the other day, who thankfully that's all he talks about is guitar now because he's playing guitar. So it's
Mhm.
interesting. And he and one of the guys on his show is a really good guitar player. They were talking about him. They think Vince Gill was probably one of the better guitar players out there, talent wise. Now I
Mhm.
was surprised you didn't mention Nuno.
Nuno's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw him play. Me and my wife went to see him for the what was it? The guitar. It's like the Steve Vai's tour that he. It was like it was Steve Vai, Yngve, Nuno, Zach Wild, and a guy from our area in DC. What was his name? He plays with like 8 strings or whatever. He was like the opening. I can't think of his name right now.
Uh,
But Nuno was actually, I don't know, I think I enjoyed him the most, and I was
yeah.
never, like, really in tune with his stuff, I mean, obviously, I knew Extreme, but
Yeah.
he was one that really made the biggest impact on me and my wife. We were just like,
Yeah.
"Wow," he was just so good, and his singing too, and,
Yeah.
he did a really cool, like, duo with Zach Wild. They did a
Yeah.
couple songs together, and then they all came out at the end, obviously, but, yeah, he was, man, wow,
Yeah.
really
Well,
phenomenal.
and I think that some of the thing with Nuno is, like, guys like me, just like the every guy, it's like, I just knew him as more than words, extreme and,
Yeah.
the other kinda like teeny bopper rock, I would almost call it, And
Yeah,
then later on in life, I find out, like, he's this master shredder guitar player, like, really good, and I'm like,
yeah.
"The same guy that sang more than words?"
What's funny? You bring him up. So I watched. There's this guy's channel I watch. I think it's called like Masters of Shred or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So he was on, and I watched it today. It's funny you bring him up. So he was telling a story how he got asked to go do this special event that Slayer was playing, and he did more than words. Like before Slayer played, like, isn't that the most bizarre thing? It's like, man,
Yeah, you have to know your audience,
he
which
survived.
on a side note, so Ocean City had that big concert last weekend, which looked like a gigantic success,
Mhm.
and, I told you I listen to that radio station, I think I say it every week, out of Baltimore. Well, they were out there live because most of these bands are ones that are cutting their teeth on that Baltimore radio station, it seems, um So they were setting down with they had a big storm out there, so they're doing an interview with Wolfgang Van Halen,
Mm.
and, like, the electric was out, I think there was a tornado out in Salisbury and all that kinda stuff. So they were doing the interview in a booth of a restaurant in Ocean City over cell phone, and I was listening to it on the radio, and goes back to choosing, so they asked him I think I told you this the other day, they were like, "Hey, so do you choose, according to who you're playing with, do you choose, different songs?" And he goes, "Absolutely." He goes, with Metallica, he said, I can't play that song. I forget the name of it. The one about it that he wrote for his dad, for Eddie. He said, so, when you're with the Metallica crowd and fans, you don't necessarily do those slower kind of sentimental songs that you do the more upbeat, harder stuff and all that. So yeah, like you said, more than words, and then
Yeah, yeah,
know your audience.
yeah,
That's not only with music, that's with everything, man.
well, he knew, he said, like, he got
Mm.
asked to do it. It was like a favor for
Yeah,
something, like some kind of event, like a birthday thing or something.
Oh, that's different.
But it was an actual show, and he said that, you know, he was just like, Slayer, really? And you know, well, he survived. Now
Well,
the thing is,
different.
you know, if you were around Slayer's heyday, like I was, you know, in the 80s, you just did not open for Slayer. You know,
Right.
You just get killed. You know, it's
Yeah.
just yeah. It didn't matter who you were. You could be
Yeah.
Metallica. You just don't open for Slayer.
Yeah.
You know,
Everybody's putting their list in here. I'll get to your list in a second. I'll blow through mine real fast. All right, Dickie Betts.
oh hell
Gotta
yeah,
have him. You missed that one.
damn right, yeah, Dickie Betts.
Betts. All right, so you know, I back in the day I liked alternative and I liked Pearl Jam. I don't like their new stuff at all, or them. But Mike McCready,
Yeah, great guitar player.
good guitar player, like really good, really solid, and very Hendrixy, you know. And I don't know if a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
You know, a
And
lot of those
Stevie Ray
little
Vaughn, I know he's like a big Stevie guy, you know, it's like
yeah,
I think it's like, I'm pretty sure, like, I think we were talking about this recently about Mike McCready. It's like him, it's, Stevie Ray Vaughn and Michael Schenker, because he does like a UFO cover band too,
yeah, right.
you know?
Well, and Slash is Michael Schenker too. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
yeah, big fan of Michael Schenker. Steve Howe, you know, I was going there.
Mhm.
The next one, and I try to cover like a little bit of everything. Dick Dale, I mean, he had his place. Like anytime somebody can come up and say, write a song on one string, and he wrote that surf song, and then he was known. And then who did we have one recently? Oh, somebody here locally played with Dick Dale. I don't know if she wants me saying her name, but somebody here locally, and then we had somebody on that played with Dick Dale right after that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I had him, Muddy Waters, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just trying to cover, and there's other ones. We talked about BB King, man. Those guys are legends,
Oh,
and
sure.
you know, to put those on a list.
Albert King, you know? Albert
Albert
King.
King, yeah. Like this is, I know there's a lot of people left off of this, but these are just people that I thought were interesting and a little different. Like it goes without saying, BB and Albert King, you know, and a
There's
lot.
Howlin' Wolf and, you know, Buddy Guy and, you know.
Yeah, a buddy guy. Yeah, definitely. And I same thing. Like I was like that does him a disservice to even put him on my list, I think. Um Willie Nelson I mentioned. I know this one a lot of people will turn up their, so I'm not talking about the music. I'm talking about the guitar playing.
Right.
John Mayer.
Yeah, you know, it's funny.
Oh geez, there's no reaction.
Well, honestly, I don't even know if I've ever even heard a whole John Mayer song in my life. So to even
Really?
really, yeah. So
Well, that's because, well, and I don't think like if I'm looking up John Mayer stuff on the internet, I'm not looking up John Mayer love songs or his love life or whatever's going on John Mayer, but I'm looking up like the things where he's playing like Stevie Ray Vaughan songs or you know stuff like that. But then I mean he's playing with Dead and Company and he's playing all that stuff in like major scales and majory and all that kind of stuff. Like he's the other thing and talk about well, remind me of him also when you talk about somebody you can close your eyes and hear him if you know his playing because he's one of those. Alex Lifeson, you knew I was going to bring that up.
yeah,
Rush, Alex
yeah,
Lifeson.
yeah.
I mean, a one man show back there, just adding all that texture in all those songs. You
Sure.
know, like handling the lead and the rhythm and adding
Underrated.
texture by open strings and
Mhm.
all of that kind of stuff.
Underrated, you know, because it's you know, Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, you know,
Yeah,
get all the attention, you know.
yeah, yeah. Am I doing okay for the everyman so far?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Okay.
fantastic.
Every man, be happy. I'm holding it up for you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a John Mayer. You didn't look like you weren't feeling that. You got to look it up.
I'm not really familiar. I mean, I know who he is, but I'm
Don't
just not.
look up his music. His music is hokey. It's the playing. And I'll bring up an example when we start talking about people's playing styles. Brian May.
Why? You know what? I don't even know why the hell I didn't mention.
How'd you miss it?
Huge for me, like huge. Brian May. He's one of the guys. The reason I play guitar is he's one of those guys there. I don't even know why the hell.
When you got to the end of your list and he wasn't on there, I almost chuckled because I was like, I got one. Let's see. David Gilmore, we talked about. John Frusciante, big fan of him also. Randy Rhodes, you had that. Nile Rodgers, I talked about him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I just kind of wanted to cover that whole spectrum.
Chic.
Yeah. Well, all that. Anything with that little drive behind it, that little 70s disco, it's just a good solid in the pocket kind of player. All right, so we will start. So Necroshin, next time we need a note for being late, but he said he was at a meeting. So
okay.
Excuse absence this time only. All right, so I'll start down.
Hell yeah. Love John
Denver.
Yeah.
Okay, so his major song. What's that?
I think he got Dever, but I think he meant
That's
John.
okay, we get it.
Yeah.
All right, so here's bonus points if anybody can tell me the real state that Almost Heaven, West Virginia song was written about. And I'll give you a hint, it wasn't West Virginia. You can Google it though. Frank Zappa. I think so. These are people I think that when I noticed that popped up when I said people that you could tell who it was without seeing them. And then this is when I was talking about the country players. Keith Richards. Definitely. Yeah, like you can kind of tell that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm more of like a Rolling Stones fan, the 60 Stones. And I don't think it was like for me, Keith Richards like spoke to me as a player. It was just the whole band that kind of spoke to me. Like he didn't stick out, like that.
Right.
It was the songs and the band that stuck out.
Well, and I think it's interesting. I mean, you figure he takes that, what's it, like a seventh chord, and he just kind of moves it around, but he makes it sound interesting everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
I think that's the cool part of that.
And actually, the guitarist that replaced Brian Jones, what's his name? Oh my God, his name escapes me. That he was in the band for a few years until Ron Wood replaced him.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments.
Yeah.
I don't know why his name escapes me, but who was a killer guitar player for whatever reason, his name is escaping me right now.
Right. And we talked, well, and the other thing with Keith Richards is he always chopped that string off.
Here's an amazing guitar player, Lindsey Buckingham.
Yes. Yeah. Very
guitar player.
Another one I almost put on my list, and there's one song, Nancy Wilson, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's like, I guess, like a rhythm player,
Yeah, but try to play the beginning of that song like she does.
Yeah,
that is a finger tongue twister. So yeah, she's pretty solid. I didn't think like you said, she was more rhythm. That's why I didn't put her on my list, but she was on the list that I was reading from. Angus. So I don't know if now the people on the rest that I'm going to throw up here, I don't know if these are the people. So let's talk now about the people that you would know it was them if your eyes were closed. And then I'll finish these out. Angus Young, we talked about him. Talked about him. We didn't talk about Jeff Beck. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
With Yardbirds, right? Yeah, we talked about his part. So,
and his solo stuff, phenomenal. Oh my God, even better. 70s stuff. Oof.
Here's one. So I hate. Okay, so everybody, you have to know this, and it's going to sound like an excuse. I don't listen to John Mayer a lot, but sometimes I'll Google his guitar playing, And this is something a couple years ago that popped up in we're always talking about tone. So this popped up in my feed. This has been years ago. It looked like at a pool party. It seems like it was on the side of a pool, and somebody had a guitar. It was an Epiphone Les Paul. And they had like a little, line 6 amp poolside. And he was playing one of his songs on it. And, he has that weird little thumb thing happening and all that. You don't know because you don't watch him. But you could tell, even though it wasn't a Strat, it wasn't his PRS, and it wasn't a big amp rig or any of that, it sounded like him. Like it, because it's his style, But the other one, I mean, it goes without saying, Eddie Van Halen. You could tell that's Eddie Van Halen. Or a knockoff, or somebody trying to sound like him.
Yeah.
Right? Who else?
Well, I mentioned Ritchie Blackmore. I just think it's just if you hear his tone and his style, I mean, it's just nobody plays like Ritchie Blackmore.
Right.
Brian May's another guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy Page, it's Jimmy Page. If you hear his playing. Kirk Hammett, I think he's got his own unique style. Schenker, I mean, Piggy from Voivod, I mean, just completely unique. I mean, there's
Is this who you were trying to think of earlier, Adrian Smith?
I mentioned Adrian Smith. No, that's Adrian Smith, Iron Maiden. Dave and Adrian, I mean,
Page. No, I didn't know that.
If you hear them, if I heard, around the corner, I like, somebody playing guitar, I would know it's those guys.
Right. Well, and I think he probably was. Yeah, Jeff Beck, you would definitely know that was Jeff Beck playing.
Without a doubt.
There's no way. So I can tell you that, and see, I never know if local people want their names blurted out, but you know what? I'm friends with a guy in a local band here. If I swear to God, this happened. So we've seen him play out a bunch of times, and I did lessons with him. So anybody that knows me that's watching knows what I'm talking about. My wife, there was something on Facebook, whatever, and she was across the room and played a clip of him playing something. And I said, "Oh, what is blank playing?" I knew it was him just by hearing him on the guitar, because he has that attack on the guitar. So even local guys, can get that sound to them, where it's in their fingers kind of thing, and the attack. You would definitely know it was Nile Rodgers too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who's you would know, this is a little joke, maybe. I don't know how it'll land, but the B-52's guitar player, you would know it was him because he only has 3 strings.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he has the B, the low E, the high E, and the B, I think. I maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's 3 strings.
You know who was doing something similar, but I think it's 4 strings. Max Cavalera from Sepultura. Max.
Oh, really?
4 strings. I mean, he's only playing rhythm anyway. He's not a lead guy or anything, but a lot of stuff he was doing. Like, I think for a while, like, he would just use 4 strings. I mean, even when I toured with him, he would just do stuff like, one finger or whatever, but he's just holding the note or whatever, and it's dummy and stuff. He's singing and playing or whatever. But
right.
Yeah, I think
that's the problem that I found. I told you recently, I tried a 7-string. A friend let me use his to see if I liked it, and I wanted to play some Korn, so I found myself just wanting to play the lower side of it. It's like, okay, I don't even know why the bottom side of it is even there anymore. So same kind of thing, I guess. Ace Fraley. Bing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and Ace, like, that's a guy. If you hear his style, because he's like a sloppy, loose player like Jimmy Page, where they have like this style that's very unique,
Right.
and so you really know you'll know it's Ace by hearing him and his voice too. Such a unique voice.
Yeah. That's
So
so who is see, I don't know how I didn't put him on my list.
Steve
Steve
Vai, yeah.
Vai. I def
Love
so I
Steve
get what he's saying. I would definitely know it was Steve Vai, and then I would turn the record off.
Vai. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know why, man. I have never like I appreciate what he was doing, but like I think if you're my age and you kind of grew up on Eddie Van Halen, then
Mm.
you thought that Steve Vai was just trying to sound like Eddie Van Halen, which I know now he's evolved from that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but, like, the Eat 'Em and Smile record, the David Lee
Mhm.
Roth record, like, man, there's some amazing playing on that. It's not
Yeah.
all there. It's pretty. I mean, if you listen to the album, there's, every song is kind of a twist and turn and different styles, so you
Yeah.
have this that obviously David wanted to kind of recreate the Van Halen-ish stuff, but then there's
Yeah.
some stuff on there that's just very different, and,
Right.
Steve is such a unique player.
Kerry
Very
King.
Yeah, Jeff Hanneman over Kerry, though, any day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's so who is all right, so let's
Kerry,
put that.
it's Kerry. If you hear, I mean, Jeff and Kerry kind of made a completely, different style lead. Some people in the 80s argued like, "Oh, this is slop," or "This is not right," or whatever, but that's what made it so unique because it was so
Yeah.
chaotic, you know?
Right. Right. You said
So,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. So who if you had to pick one, who would it be?
One, as far as, like, if you
Wait, wait,
as
wait.
far as, like, hearing a guitar player that
No, no, no. Your favorite. If you had to
oh,
pick one.
oh, that's easy. Eddie Van Halen's my favorite guitar player.
Whew.
Yeah,
I yeah, I would have to say that.
yeah.
But it's weird, I find myself we didn't mention Joe Walsh.
Yeah, Joe Walsh, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
and
also the other guitarist in, the Eagles, what was his name? Not Glenn Frey, but the other guy, oh
I
man,
was
what is
just
his
getting
name?
ready to say it.
What the hell is his name? Oh my god. I don't know why I can't
Right
think of
when
it.
you said Glenn Frey, I was getting ready to say his name.
Yeah,
I somebody will put it in the comments, but
yeah.
yeah, and that was the example I was gonna say when I blurted out, Joe Walsh was sometimes I like the guy in the background that's kinda driving the song, and that's who you're talking about, the guy in the back that's playing the acoustic,
Yeah,
when
that's
the in all those videos from the Capitol Center.
yeah.
So, the other one is, and I don't know the guy's name.
Two guys that I completely left off that were still huge for me is, Brian Robertson and Scott Gorham with Thin Lizzy, and Gary Moore, who was in Thin Lizzy too. It's like my
Yeah,
wife, her might be like up
yeah,
there with top guitar players.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so there's one, I don't know his name, the guitar player in the original guitar player with Jeff Lynne in ELO. I mean, he's just the guy that drives the song in the background. Doesn't do
Yeah,
anything fancy, just drives the song.
yeah. I wouldn't know.
I forget his name, but, one of his favorites is
Alan
Alan
Holt.
Holdsworth.
Oh,
Yeah,
fucking monster guitar player.
yeah,
Ridiculous. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and there were a lot on there that, I there and, so who do we I know we say this every week, but there's gotta be somebody that's interesting now. There's a
Uh,
lot of people on a lot of good guitar players on the internet now.
yeah. Hmm. There's a couple like I mentioned. What's his name? I think it's Marcus King or something like that.
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, uh, I think he's a really great player, and he's like probably in his early 20s, maybe he's 30. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's a great and singer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a
Have
guy.
you seen have you seen that big, I think he's a British kid that, kinda wears a Stevie Ray Vaughan hat, plays a lot of Stevie Ray stuff. That
Oh,
dude is really good. He sounds like Stevie reincarnated.
Does he have a kind of a crazy hairdo a little bit? Like it's kind of like tied back here to the side or something. He's always got his hair like British.
Oh, no, you're thinking of Taj, right?
No,
He's a good guitar player.
no.
Taj Farrant, he's a good guitar player. Young kid.
Yeah.
Carlos Santana, yeah. See, Dwayne Allman. We mentioned that.
Sean. Did we mention him?
Yeah, Neil Sean, yeah. Yeah, Carlos Santana. Yeah,
Ronnie Montrose, another guy didn't mention, another guy of the 70s.
There's a lot. What about female? Who's the best female guitarist?
Best female guitarist. For me, oh, that's a good question. Wow, I don't know. Yeah, that's a hard question.
Hold on, we can't let this one hang. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Mine's
blank.
Here's what nobody I'm sure somebody like
Bonnie Raitt's a great guitar player.
Yeah. So what nobody understands is like if you're out there watching the two of us do this on the spot, like you're probably going like, how can't they think of that? It's different when you're doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk for a second.
I'm trying to think though. You got me like stumped on the female guitar player thing. I mean, I mentioned Bonnie Raitt, but
Sophie Lloyd, Nita Strauss.
She's
Orianthi
earlier. Yeah.
Orianthi, good.
Oh yeah, she's another great player. Yeah.
It has
a lot of great players out there now. Nobody comes to mind. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's male or female. I think we were talking about where it like after the 80s, there was no player that really made an impact.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of great players out there, but nobody's really made that impact, after the 80s.
But you know what? Here we go. We have Nita Strauss. Cheesy Cheech was on it, and Nancy Wilson. I mentioned her earlier. You know what I like is and it's probably different for Lita Ford. Yeah. So it's not like she's been all over social media playing this week because she was out at that festival out at Ocean City. So
yeah, she's a great player.
Yeah, she's been popping up in my social media feed. But you know what? I mean, the Nita Strauss. I mean, those are all the ones that Lita Ford, Nancy Wilson, Joan Jett, Sophie Lloyd. Those are the ones we hear all the time. But when you see like the Super Bowl and her pops up, HER, with like her signature Strat, that's cool. That makes me feel like, all right, the next generation is picking it up and she can play. She can play really decently. Yeah. So I mean, it's pop music and there's not a lot of lead work to be done in there, but she seems like a solid guitar player. Mm-hmm. So I like seeing some. Plus, we're girl dads. We like to see girls, that do well at playing guitar and whatever they try to do. We're girl dads. I mean,
there's definitely a lot more women in rock and metal and blues music today than you've ever seen before. A lot of them are better than the guys.
Yeah. I mean, Nita Strauss. I mean, that goes without saying.
She's ridiculous guitar player.
I'm trying to see. I mean, we've mentioned this before. Melissa Etheridge. Nah, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Talk about not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Some of these I don't even know. We talked about this. It may have been last week or the week before. Is the players that are on the internet and the stuff that is available to them. I don't know if anybody. I forget the girl's name. She's a young girl, and her whole little gimmick on TikTok is her mom will go up and go, hey, whatever her name is. I feel horrible. I forget what it is, but she holds her phone up and you can see what the song is. And she's like, finish this song. And I'm telling you, that girl, there was a lot of songs. She's a good player. She plays violin too, I think.
Right.
But now, and lately I've seen her on stage, and a really good guitar player. And internet guitar players, they have a lot of things available to them nowadays.
Sure.
We didn't mention. I know I always mention Tim Henson and Scott LePage from Polyphia. I mean, that's another genre of music, but man, they're just good guitar players.
Yeah,
Maybe a little too perfect,
Mhm.
but they did something with Steve Vai. You knew that, right?
I gotta mention another guy that I forgot about him. He made a big impact on me in the later '80s, or mid '80s. Chuck Lenahan. He was the guitarist of the crossover thrash punk band, the Crumbsuckers from New York City. And even though they started off as like a punk hardcore band, and then kind of went crossover with like metal. And then their last record, which is called Beast on My Back, and they only did 2 albums, but it's like the progression from Life of Dreams to Beast on My Back, like
Right.
you would actually appreciate the guitar playing on it, Roger. Just ridiculous, like phenomenal guitar player. And
Right.
so he's he was a big guy for me. And I mean, there's so many guys I can go on and on, but he's another guy and it's funny how you mentioned Brian May. I have no clue why I didn't have him on there, because he's at the top of my list.
Yeah. Well, who I'm surprised you didn't call me out on it. The person that I don't have on my list, not that he's like a virtuoso or anything, but Billy Corgan. So my list was mostly like, I put up my disclaimer at the beginning, but I think if I had to go on somebody that kind of influenced me and made me like, first time I heard Siamese Dream, because I kind of diverted through rap and then some hardcore rap, alternative. God, I've listened to it all. What we used to call college rock back in the day, with Morrissey and all that. But then when I came back into like being interested in guitar, it was like Siamese Dream. When I heard, I think it was Cherub Rock or one of those, I was like, I wonder how hard it is to play that. And then, so the goofy story behind that. So, back in the guitar scene, hadn't played since I was a kid. This has been years ago. And, they don't tell you, how it is when you first get into guitars. They don't tell you all the secrets. It's like, I frustrate myself with everything, because, it's like, why can't it be like this? Why can't I just sound like him? And I'm trying to do it on that Epiphone Les Paul. What's that?
How about sounding like you?
Yeah, well, no, it was bigger than that. Like I couldn't even sound in the neighborhood with anything from Siamese Dream, because I was playing an Epiphone. I didn't know there was a difference between Epiphone and Strats back then. And then I was playing through a little cheap practice amp. But then the funniest part of it, and back then, I mean, even the internet was kind of early, and you could find things, and it's like, oh, I need this pedal. It's called a Big Muff. So my wife, I may have told this on here before. So I think she got it for me for Christmas or my birthday or something. So this was when real guitar guys used to work at Guitar Center. You walk in there and they were like rock and roll guys, all guitar players and all that. So my wife walks in there and said, yeah, I'm looking for a pedal to get my dad or my husband for Christmas, birthday, and whatever. And they're like, yeah, which one? She goes, it's called a Big Muff Pie. And she said the whole store fell out and started laughing at her. Like this lady walks in there, I need a Big Muff Pie, please.
Do you have one of those?
I do.
You do?
The gigantic one too. The big one.
Oh wow.
Big Muff Pie.
I'm pretty sure
with the 3.14 pie thing on it.
I'm pretty sure I saw an interview with Billy Corgan, and he said he had some kind of ridiculous collection of Big Muff pedals.
Oh yeah.
So
that I thought that was funny that I didn't have him on my list, but I was kind of looking at.
No, I I like Billy Corgan too a lot. So
yeah, and I like, the layering of the guitars and all that on there, and I like the earlier stuff.
Me too.
Oh, Gary Cantrell, yeah. So Alice in Chains is another big one for me.
Yeah. Jerry's another great player.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Tone,
But I have to tell you, and so unfortunately they were supposed to headline Ocean City, and Def Leppard ended up doing it because I think their drummer's having health issues.
It's funny. That's two guitar players, the original guitarists of Def Leppard, huge for me, Pete Willis and Steve Clark. Those two of my favorites too. I left them off.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the first three Def Leppard records.
Yeah.
Big for me, and then obviously another
Phil
guy
Collins.
is Phil Collins, great player, but Vivian Campbell, who plays with them now,
Right.
from D. Vivian, another one of my favorites. And even some of those guys like Warren DeMartini from Rat, George Lynch. I mean, love all those guys.
And I think when I was younger, like when Def Leppard was out, I didn't realize Phil Collins was as good as he is. And Phil Collins is the way a dude should look in his 60s. Like that guy's cut. He's kept himself in good shape, man.
Yeah.
And they look like they had a great show out there. Neil Young.
I like Young. I mean, guitar player. I don't know. It doesn't stick out to me, but I get
Bill. Yeah, so those are all of our picks.
Yeah, there was a lot.
What's that?
There was a lot of guys there.
Yeah.
Between the both of us that we mentioned,
Well, and the funny behind the scenes is when you said you wanted to do this, I was like, I don't know. Do you think we could talk an hour and a half on that? You said
easy.
I could talk for hours on it.
I just dummied it down. I just mentioned their name without getting into the specifics, of everything. Like Eddie Van Halen, like I said, I mean, it's been talked about. That'll be talked about to the end of time, Eddie Van Halen. But I mean, there's a lot of guys in there that don't get that type of attention, so important. Even a guitar player I mentioned on the under the radar guy, it was like Tim Renwick that played with Al Stewart and Bowie, or he did session work for Bowie and stuff like that. And he's still sure great player.
Well, and we mentioned, God, you talk about good players that have been on a lot of stuff. Tim Pierce. I mentioned him a couple weeks ago. Good God.
Robert Fripp of King Crimson, man, another guy. I'm gonna mention him too. I mean, there's so many guys. It's
So before we close out, what's your plans coming up? You all leave town next week, right?
No, I leave in like a week and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
June. Yeah. Well, I'm going to Brazil for about 2 weeks.
Right. I always try to plug your stuff, and you're like, "Oh, what? I'm going there."
My mind's on diapers and getting my 4-year-old to take a bath, and I'm not even thinking about any of that. But
it's funny because if people saw you at your typical pose with your all your dark clothing on, shredding on the guitar with your leg propped up on the speaker, they wouldn't imagine how your weekdays go. It's such a contrast. It's not bad. It's just fatherhood.
Yeah. Well, that's who I am. I'm a dad. I'm a dad.
You're a dad.
That's who I am. Number one. So
yeah.
He's last. He's in last.
And we have an update. So I laughed today. You posted that. I sent you that picture of your guitar.
Yeah.
And then you posted with no knobs on it. I was like, you posted one with no knobs.
That's all right. Yeah. So, let's check it out. Let's see it. All right.
It has knobs.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
There are.
Wow, look at that.
Nice Fishman's in it.
Yeah.
I haven't put the back on it yet.
Yeah. I kind of like it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, trim stop. And you can
Yeah.
see I never cut the strings until I'm doing
Yeah. Looks like Kerry King. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
And
strings.
good action on it too. And it sounds, man, it sounds great.
Real quick before we go out, why don't you kind of take us through what you did to it?
Okay. So we it stayed, I forgot to tell you earlier, that thing stays in tune great.
Oh, phenomenal.
Like I don't even have it locked down. I don't even have the nut locked down yet. So that's the one that you showed that came in last week. So we put a Fishman Modern in the bridge, and then we put the single, not the Strat single, but their other higher powered single in the, so it's hum single in the neck. 3-way switch. I did 2 push pulls on it, so it has basically 3 voicings on it, this is the first time we've done this with one of your guitars. So your tone knob, it has a volume and a tone. I know this is super geeky and boring, but volume and a tone, both push pull. You get voice 1 and voice 2, which for you, when you pull out on the tone, it's a slightly darker. It's more a passive, right? It goes more passive. But then the way I hired it, the way I wired it, the volume, I wired up the push pull to where it would split the coil and then tap the coil on because you could split the humbucker, and the other one has a coil tap capability, which are 2 different concepts, by the way, a tap and a split. Maybe we'll talk about that one week, the difference between a coil split and a coil tap. But before we came on tonight, I had it hooked up to my Stealth, my EV8 Stealth, and just kind of like I've told you before, if you can get a guitar to sound good clean, like it's going to sound great dirty. So I played it on the blue channel, then the red channel, then I put it on the green channel on clean and split it. So it was kind of humbucker, maybe more Telecaster because of how far apart the pickups are. But it was really, really chimey. Like it sounded really nice, even in C with 13s on it.
Yeah.
And I told you, what's that?
Yeah, like when I first got the guitar, I only played it at home with the original pickups that were in it and standard, but just playing it acoustically, it has a nice resonance to the guitar already. I noticed like, well, this is gonna sound good, so I could hear already the resonance
and it felt better. I told you the other night when I played it, maybe the neck was a little wider than I like and a little flatter, but tonight it felt better. Maybe I got a little bit used to it. But we did that. We put a 37 millimeter brass block on it, trim stop, and then we I mean, yours are kind of almost, it's a Floyd, but it's almost like a fixed bridge because we tighten the strings the springs down pretty good. You could whammy it if you had to. Like it'll push down, it'll take a little bit of force. But that keeps that thing, like that thing was super stable in the tuning. So that's all the upgrades we did to it. It turned out good, I think. And I'm really, really in. I don't know how everybody else Croshan said nice and cool. He has another one up there. I am really getting into the hum single.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
You're going to Brazil with him?
Come on, come on aboard, Joe.
Yeah,
you're more than welcome.
I'll hang out. That's a good combination of it really. I was surprised how good it sounded clean split. On that sort of passive channel on.
And I love that middle position too, the hum and single position.
That's exactly how I had it.
It sounds really good, on guitars, like the one behind me, this one right here, which Roger also did,
Yeah, same configuration.
Yeah, it's got really sweet tone when you put it in the middle position.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah. That thing looks great.
Yeah.
That makes me want that other guitar.
See, you got to get that other one now.
I know. Every time I see that one, I'm like, okay, I could see myself getting.
You know what? I forget. Do you have any ESPs?
Mm-mm.
See, you got it.
Nope. Eventually I have to take a little break. I'm on a hiatus right now.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I've been informed I'm on a buying hiatus.
Join the family, Roger. You've
What's that?
You've joined the EVH family and the Fishman family. Now you need to join the ESP family.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and I've been really happy with the Fishman family.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm thinking in the next couple weeks that I'm gonna have that other one. What was it? The 87?
Yeah, the 87 is a Mirage Deluxe.
Mirage, yeah. Yeah, we showed it last week. I really like that. And I'm kind of torn. So the green color was nice. Or turquoise, I think they called it. But the gold, you all pointed out last week, everybody on the channel, how good the gold looked.
Yeah.
The white looks good too, but I don't know. It seems like I have all of a sudden I have all these guitars with gold hardware in it. So maybe I need to back that down a little bit. But yeah, so that may happen one day, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, this thing turned out great. That's gonna hold. Is that the only one you're taking with you?
Yeah, I'll probably bring a backup too.
Right.
Eclipse,
Yeah.
I probably won't use, but very rarely do I use the backup. I usually do a tour with just my number one, but sometimes I'll switch it up,
Yeah. The Croatian, the white, are you talking about the white or LTD we talked about last week? I like the white one. Here, my weakness, I used to hate white guitars. I don't know why, but I didn't like them, and now I do. But man, I love white cars. Like white cars is my thing. Except for my truck. I don't know how I ended up with silver. Everything else has been white. So I don't know. Sometimes I try to go away from it because I look around and everything I own is white. Yeah, he's talking about the white one. Yeah, that looks good. Even with the gold on it, you think? That's what.
Why not? I've gotten into the gold hardware. I only have, I think, one guitar with gold hardware, and I like it. It depends on what it blends with. Some guitars it really works well, and
the Prussian saying, he likes the gold. And I mean, not that we tune in here to talk about Roger's friggin' guitar collection, but I mean, you start looking around at what's that?
That'll be another episode.
There's things that I'd rather have that I think I play more than my Sir, which is almost just too pretty to play.
That is such a great guitar. I mean, if I had that guitar, I'd be playing that a lot. I mean, and by the way, everybody, Roger has some really great guitars in his collection. It's really
by mistake. They were all by mistake. Accidentally bought them. Yeah. Oh, Aggie goes gold for the bling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, and really, I say I have a lot with gold, but I think it's really just that that Reverend that I got that has gold hardware on it. I don't know, maybe the white one.
Yeah,
We'll see if we can sneak that in the house sometime. I have to use my smuggle bag, which is a true thing. I really have a smuggle bag for customers so they can smuggle things in, and their wife will just. I'm not making it up. I've loaned people bags.
It could be worse. It could be worse.
It could be. You know what? I say that a lot. Wives will come in here, and I always say he could be doing a whole lot worse with his money, buying guitars.
Yeah.
So, what else you got? You good? You're probably tired.
I think that's about it for me.
Hour and a half. Yeah, we went an hour and a half on our list, and we're back next Thursday, right?
Yeah, next Thursday we will be here.
Next Thursday, and it'll be us.
We have a 2-week break. I'll be,
He said, "Say it's Alex's guitar." You know, funny thing you say that. So the day I went over, and I've told this story, I know. I went over and played, and I came back, and I was like, I have got to have an EV8 Stealth. That she was like, "You're not allowed to go play at Alex's house anymore." So I've already done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's pretty cool about it most of the time. Plus, I've gotten rid of a couple of things. I got rid of my orange amp. Things are, man, if anybody's looking to buy, right now's the time, man. There's like the prices are down. Like I just got beaten on an orange OR15, but you know, at some point you just get tired of looking at them sitting around and got to get it moving, you know. So, hey, thanks as always for being with us. And we'll wrap it up, and we'll see everybody next week. Like and subscribe. Hope we're not wearing everybody out with the shorts. We're just trying to get some followers. So if they're swamping your feed, sorry about that, but we might do a few more this week. So thanks for joining us.
Guys, have a good night. See you next week.